The 2026 Formula One revolution began behind the closed doors of Barcelona with a chaotic first day that everyone expected to remain top secret, yet leaks through the paddock into a frenzy. Although the FIA and teams surrounded the track like a fortress, employing Secret Service-level measures against spy cameras and curious eyes, they failed to hide the true face of 2026. Today, we aren't just analyzing cars hitting the track, we are analyzing the first real test of engineering geniuses, radical design differences, and 350-kilowatt hybrid monsters. Mercedes, Red Bull, Haas, Audi, Alpine, and Cadillac. 7 teams tore up the asphalt today, and every leaked photo and timing data whispered the engineering codes of the future champion. Specifically, the final form of the Red Bull RB22 and Haas's surprising lap counts gave the first concrete clues about the 2026 power balance. Technical depth of this caliber and the true strategies of the paddock only come to life on this channel. If you're tired of surface-level gossip and are in love with the true engineering spirit of Formula One, there's always a place for you at our perspective desk. Subscribe and become part of this technical journey, because here we don't just talk about races, we talk about data and the future. The undisputed star of the day was Red Bull's 2026 weapon, the RB22. The incredibly narrowed sidepod structure in the first leaked photos immediately led the paddock to compare it to Mercedes' failed zero-pod concept. However, looking at the RB22 with a technical eye, we see that this design actually draws inspiration from the 2021 champion RB16B's in-washing structure and Red Bull's aerodynamic DNA. Red Bull engineers opted for radical packaging by using a very narrow and sharp underbite air intake. The rear of the car is wrapped around the gearbox and rear suspension like a glove, making the RB22 visually the most compact car on the grid. Sticking to pushrod suspension geometry front and rear, the team aimed to maximize underfloor airflow by using more horizontal and complex slashes on the barge boards instead of the vertical veins seen on the W17. The RB22 offers a much more holistic package with cooling louvers on the engine cover and a 2017-style shark fin. Red Bull hitting the track with such a bold path post-Newey is the strongest evidence of the engineering team's confidence in their own genius. The biggest surprise and winner of day one was undoubtedly Haas, completing a full 67 laps. Reaching such a high lap count on the first day of new engine regulations shows that the Ferrari power unit and Haas chassis are more prepared than their rivals regarding system integration. While they were followed by Mercedes with 56 laps and Red Bull with 44, Audi sat at the bottom with 27 laps. Audi driver Gabriele Bortoleto stopping on track and causing a red flag signifies the classic birthing pains a new manufacturer might face. Many analysts predicted that 2026 engines would be a barbecue festival of flames and smoke. However, those catastrophic scenarios did not manifest. Haas, having such a trouble-free day, gave the first signals that their wind tunnel correlation with the track is high. The error-free day for Mercedes-powered teams was proof that the engine department in Brixworth has made a very strong entry into 2026. For Audi, the first day was spent on system checks rather than data, showing they have a lot of work to do on the road to Melbourne. Day one of the Barcelona test presented a design mess, proving how differently the 2026 regulations can be interpreted. Looking at front-wing nose structures, we see Mercedes, Red Bull, Audi, and Alpine following completely opposite paths. While some teams kept the upper footplate section, Red Bull completely removed it, opting to direct airflow under the car more aggressively. In sidepod designs, the grid is essentially split. Alpine accelerates airflow to the rear with deep water slide-style channels, while Audi hit the track with a wide, voluminous bathtub-style structure reminiscent of Ferrari's legendary F175. The convergence of Ferrari and Mercedes on similar design lines, with V-Carb joining that discussion, shows that designs will eventually merge. However, the current picture represents an exploratory phase where every engineer is seeking their own truth. This diversity proves that the 2026 Formula One world is not just a speed race but a battle of imagination and stretching the laws of physics. The aero signature created by each team's unique front wing and side pod combination will determine the fate of the season. Cadillac's first real test on the 2026 grid presented a much more modest yet strategic appearance compared to its rivals. The Cadillac on the Barcelona asphalt had lost almost nothing from the shakedown version we saw in Silverstone a few weeks ago. It hit the track in its most basic A-Spec form. Unlike their rivals, Cadillac engineers opted for a much more traditional downwashing sidepod structure and a simple aero package. This shows that Cadillac's priority is system harmony and engine reliability, not performance. The team completed 33 laps during the shakedown, a reasonable distance for a new entity. However, competing with giants like Red Bull or Mercedes with such a basic design seems quite difficult. Cadillac's car currently operates as a test lab, and it's speculated that the real aero updates are being saved for the final tests before Melbourne. Still, the newest grid member running trouble-free laps and covering more distance than Audi was a significant achievement, proving the project's seriousness. For Cadillac, Barcelona was just an acclimatization process. The real technical war is just beginning for them. One of the events that defined day one of the Barcelona test was the effort by the FIA and teams to protect this process like a state secret. Content creators like Soy Motor and Notches98 were harassed by security vehicles at every step, from 200 to 600 meters away from the track. Secret Service-style black vehicles patrolling the track periphery made extraordinary efforts to prevent anyone from taking close-up photos. There were even legal threats of imprisonment or massive fines for crossing certain boundaries. Such a massive effort for secrecy proves just how priceless the technical secrets of the 2026 cars actually are. Teams opted for closed-circuit testing in the afternoon sessions to ensure no one could see. Despite this pressure, spy lenses managed to capture RB22's rear suspension details and Audi's floor structure within seconds. The harsh measures taken by Formula One management reminded us once again that this sport is not just a race, but a billion-dollar war of technological espionage. No one wants their rivals seeing their active wing actuators or diffuser slots, but determined fans on the hills of Barcelona knew how to break that technological barrier. The most discussed technical data of the day was undoubtedly the leaked 1:18.35 lap time by Hajar at the wheel of the Red Bull. Of course, laps set on the first day of testing cannot be considered a full indicator of performance without knowing fuel loads, engine maps, and tyre compounds. However, this lap was the first concrete evidence that the 2026 cars could be much faster than expected. By the time the FIA realized the situation and quickly pulled the live timing screens from the internet, the paddock's most secret data was already in the fans' hands. The fact that some teams were running on intermediate tyres in the morning due to a wet track was a perfect excuse to mask their true potential. This lap from Red Bull indicates that the Honda and RB22 partnership is already making its raw power potential felt under the 2026 regulations. On the Haas side, reliability and lap count took precedence over lap times. Completing 67 laps as the team with the most distance covered was vital data for system stability. While teams appeared indifferent to their standings on the leaked timing chart, every millisecond was in fact the first on-track validation of their wind tunnel data. The 1:18.35 benchmark proves that 2026 promises not just endurance, but a very high pace. Seeing how these times fluctuate tomorrow when Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri take the MCL40 to the track will define the true scale of the 2026 technical war. To summarize the first day in Barcelona, the undisputed winners of the day were Haas, with a 67-lap durability show, and the Red Bull RB22, which shook the paddock with its technical bravery. On the losing side, we have Audi, which disappointed with its low lap count, and Cadillac, whose design has yet to pose a threat to its rivals. But remember, this is just a warm-up lap. When McLaren and Aston Martin hit the track tomorrow, the balance could be shaken once again. Is Red Bull's radical and compact design a championship key, or a repeat of the zero-pod nightmare Mercedes endured? Is Haas's surprising speed real, or just a show run? Let's discuss this technical war and the details of the RB22 in the comments. I will review every single one of your comments. Don't forget to join our strategy team and witness this historic moment. See you in our next deep dive, where we will examine all the leaks and technical details of the second day of Barcelona testing. Take care, stay with the race.